Hello, this is Wild One. I have one more unboxing from my recent expansion purchasing binge, and this time it's Omens of the Deep expansion for Elder Sign. This is similar to Omens of Ice, where they kind of create a story that you progress through, an adventure. The Omens of Ice one is told in two parts, and I believe this one is also told in two parts. Here's our rule sheet. Should be a short rule book. Lots of interesting new components. Of course, this is going to introduce a new version of Cthulhu. Omens of the Deep referring to the seas where Roulier exists and Cthulhu exists within it. And Cthulhu's minions, the deep ones. So you're probably sure these are all deep ones. Yeah, we've got these deep one legions here. Wave of the Ley Lines. Or I'm sorry, Walking the Ley Lines, Wave of Destruction. What are those? Let's open this up and find out, why don't we? So we have a couple punch sheets here. Oh my god, there's more Deep One Legions. There's a whole bunch of them here. Look at that. That is a lot of Deep One Legions. And they all have, like, they have different conditions for defeating them. So you've got some here that require 2 terror, some that require 2 peril. One here, I'm sorry, not that one. Here's one that requires a peril and a terror, peril and lore, lore and terror, lore and lore. It's basically like every combination, every permutation of terror, lore, and peril is all spread out across here. That's pretty cool. And then there's more over here. So we've got 1 investigation and a terror, 1 investigation and a peril, but not 1 investigation and a lore. So not quite every permutation. We've got these 4 icons down here. I don't know what those are for. I am excited to find out. And then we have more investigators. I see some familiar ones in here. I see Minty Fan there. And there's Hank Sampson. There's, whoa, who is that? I want to say that's Agnes. She's the librarian. I'm trying to remember what her name is. I will find out shortly because the investigator cards are in here. So we have the teeny cards. Adding more interesting stuff. We have special Mythos deck. We have another Mythos deck that's interesting, a green one. Probably related to the first and second parts of the story. Similar to Omens of Ice, where it's basically a 2-part story, and you kind of choose when you want to advance to the second part. But once you do, you can't go back, and things get really hard, but you get more Elder Signs, opportunities as Elder Signs, so more skills, lots of skills. I'm hoping some of these skills can be integrated into the base game without any trouble. One of the things I like about these expansions is even though they might be sort of self-contained stories, they do have cards that can be integrated into the base game. We got 3 more allies here. Basil Elton, Crystal Johansson, Randolph Carter. Interesting. We have more unique items. 3 more unique items. Ooh, there's another one of those. There's, I can't remember, but there's already a unique item that lets you choose between a red and a yellow die and a lightning gun. Discard anytime a monster appears to immediately discard that monster. Some common items here. Bandages. A blunderbuss. And Gambler's dice. I assume that's, yeah, after rolling, discard to re-roll any of your dice. And then we have 3 new spells. We have the Third Eye. We have Inner Beast here. And then we have Azure Flame. Got several spell cards like this one where you get to store away 2 die rolls. Alright, now we have the meat of the game. All the adventure cards. There should be a lot of them. So yeah, just like Omens of Ice, there are two parts to this adventure. We have number 1 here. Starting with number 1 here. There's all of those. Lots of different. And again, they're like, you know, so like, for example, Trouble at Sea. There's not actually a location you have an adventure in. It's just you're on a ship at sea and you're having to deal with stuff going on out there. And Scattered Remnants, Solitary Island. This stuff's really cool. And then we have the special adventure cards. So we have Echoes of the Dream and Calling. I apologize if I'm not getting this stuff into focus. But you can see that the one at the bottom is blue. Add this adventure face up to the play area after completing Calling, which is this one here. So you start with Calling. Add this adventure face up to the play area during setup. So you start with this one and then you advance to this one. So, just like Omens of Ice, there are rewards. The rewards are just advancing through the story. So you put Echoes of the Dream, which is this guy here, and then here's like if the Omen token is on the rightmost space, receive this award twice. There's probably something involving an Omen token. I'll take a look here in a moment. And then here's basically part 2. And again, we've got 2 special adventure cards. So it starts out with Relier Risen. Add this adventure face up when you travel to stage 2. This is stage 2 of the adventure. And then the outcome is put the Sleeper Wakes into a special adventure card into play, which is this guy. And then, boom! Look at that. Once you're ready to take this one on, it's probably really hard. Oh yes, it's very hard. Look at that. That requires 6 dice, which means you're going to need some clues to re-roll, maybe some spells to hold on to some stuff, and 4 Elder Signs. Have over here, we have some other cards in here. So there's the Investigators. Let's look at the Investigators really quick. Who did we get? So we got Zoe Samers, the chef. That person doesn't look familiar. Roland Banks, I remember him. And there's Minty Fun, I remember her. Lola Hayes, I definitely remember her. I remember that really bizarre artwork. The artwork on that one is really interesting. Luke Robinson, the Dreamer. Luke Robinson just appeared in my Dreamlands expansion as a new investigator. There's Hank the farmhand. I like the artwork here is actually lifted from Arkham Horror. So this is all the Arkham Horror artwork. And I believe this artwork was also used in the original edition, the first edition of Mansions of Madness. But I'm not sure because I don't own that one. Mr. Barnaby. Daisy Walker, that's who I was thinking of. The other one, Agnes, I think she's like a cook or something. I can't remember. So those are the 8 new investigators. Great. More investigators. I'd love me some additional investigator options. Alright, and then our 3 ancient ones. So we have a revamped Cthulhu. This is a special Cthulhu for this for this expansion. So he's a souped up version of Cthulhu. But there's some new symbols on here. Omens of Ice had this as well, and of course so did Gates of Arkham. And full disclosure, I've beaten Gates of Arkham, but I have not beaten Omens of Ice. That one's pretty challenging, but it's just a different type of adventure. And here's Dagon, Rise of the Deep Ones, and then the other one was Hydra. I don't know if I showed you Hydra there. Mother of Madness. Cthulhu. Now, typically the ancient ones have two more spaces on their, or two fewer spaces on their doom track than it takes Elder Signs to defeat them. But here Cthulhu takes 3 extra, which kind of explains that final adventure I showed you, the final special adventure that gives you 4 Elder Signs. It kind of makes up for it. But here you see, you know, 10 spaces on the doom track and 12 Elder Signs. And then here's 8 spaces on the doom track and 10 Elder Signs. This one's basically like Yig, if you want a really short one. Really short adventure. Then we have the Amulet of Relier. Look at that. Oh, it's die locking. So there was a card, one of those special adventure cards was talking about this. It looks like it advances, something advances around here and locks dice as it moves around. Sort of like the Omen track on Eldritch Horror, where different constellations are covered and those constellations then result in bad things. And then here's, if the Omen token would advance, remove a Deep One Legion on any adventure from the game. And if it retreats, so you can move either direction. Oh, and then on the other side we have the Dark Waters. So obviously these two can't both be used at the same time because there's another track down here. Similar to the, there's a weather track on Omens of Ice. So this is sort of a sea track, an ocean track. Cool, really cool. And then the Ultima Thule, which I believe that's the name of this ship right here. So you can go to the ship to sort of like the museum entrance in the base game, where you can go and spend trophies to do stuff. And then on the other side we have the wreckage of the Ultima Thule. So I have a feeling that like this is the first phase of the adventure, and then you enter the second phase and the ship has crashed and your options are limited when you enter the second adventure. Not quite as many things you can do with your trophies. That's awesome. I'm really excited about this, but I want to beat Omens of Ice first before I attempt to beat Omens of the Deep. But here it is, the latest expansion. They just keep churning these out, and I really like what Elder Sign is doing here with the expansions. When they released the first one, which introduced Blesses and Curses, that was a nice, like, just an enhancement to the existing base game. But then you get to Gates of Arkham, and now you're introducing an actual, like, adventure slash, like Gates of Arkham, the Streets of Arkham version of the game expands out into all of Arkham, and it's kind of like basically all the Arkham horror locations. But then, starting with Omens of Ice, they've been introducing these sort of story elements where you actually advance through a story, a stage, and then you can choose at one point you want to advance from that stage to the next stage when you feel like you're strong enough and ready to move forward into the next stage of the overarching story, filled with all of these little mini adventures. So I really love that what they're doing here with these mechanics to sort of create this nice cohesive story. Really fills in the theme, you feel like you're in it and you're there. If you're really into immersion into your games, this is the kind of stuff to get. If you like the stuff that you're seeing here, I highly recommend that if you don't have the base game of Elder Sign, start there, buy the base game. If you enjoy it, get the Unseen Forces expansion, which is basically, in my opinion, it is a must-have expansion for the base game. It definitely improves on a number of things and gets rid of some OP stuff like being able to buy Elder Signs, which I always felt was kind of weird. You could spend 10 trophies at the museum entrance to buy an Elder Sign at any time. But they took that out, and they introduced 4 different locations, not just the museum entrance, but a church and a souvenir shop and so on, where you could go visit each of those 4 locations and do things, and then go back and play adventures. And then, of course, if you enjoy that, then I recommend Gates of Arkham, even though Gates of Arkham is super challenging. That is a really challenging game, but fun. And then proceed on. Omens of Ice, Omens of the Deep. You can get Omens of the Deep without having to get in Omens of Ice, and the same thing with Gates of Arkham. They're independent of each other. You don't have to worry about that. But they all integrate really well with the base game and the Unseen Forces expansion. So, if you really enjoyed this, like and share this video. Please feel free to subscribe to my channel and click the little bell to receive notifications when I upload new videos. So until next time, this is Wild One signing off.